one shot, now the future is yours. Go! One shot for the kill, the breeze cut, freeze up, straight dropping the chills. I'm talking taking over pieces and shares. A bomb break sky high, check the movement is here. Yeah, it's one heart, one shot, now the future is yours. Go! Turning dreams into reality. In the lab with the formula and chemistry. Your memories spark and motivate and make the industry shake. You put the balls in the brakes. I'm talking one chance at best, yes. Painting pictures for the culture, keep the brushes fresh. Flip the cover with the drummer, passion never rests. Freedom is our teacher under pressure, now we blessed. See, I was so good for the go. It's one art, one shot, now the future is yours. Go! Yeah. It's one art, one shot, now the future is yours. Go!
Well, evening, Kyle.
What's going on, Paul?
Evening, everybody. We got a good size house started up early here tonight. There's lots of people in the chat here tonight. Both, well, let's see if are they mostly on your channel? Yeah, we got some people on mine. We got some people on yours. What's up, everybody? We got Tech for Your Needs, CH Gadgets, welcome. And then there's a number of other people in here tonight. I'm guessing they're here, especially you have a lot of ZV-1 fans on your channel. So, they're all looking forward to this new ZV-2 or not ZV-2. I mean, it depends on what it is, right? I mean, there's a rumor that there is a new ZV camera. So we don't know if it's like a Mark II version. Rumor has it could be a cheaper version of the ZV-1, but
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like the ZV-1's
let's start off by saying, first off, we don't know anything positively by any means. We don't nothing to do with Sony rumors or anything like that. So just want to expel that real quick too. That it's not like we have the camera or anything like that.
Or do
yeah.
No. I'm not that cool. Kyle might be that cool, but I'm definitely not that cool. I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
But no, I mean we are speculating here tonight, and it's a very interesting topic because it's a pretty hot camera, and I don't have one, but I want one. But I'm kind of waiting to see what happens this year with this other mysterious model that comes out. So.
Yeah, so what I'm reading, Paul, is basically there's going to be a new, people are probably assuming there's going to be a new ZV-1 soon anyways, like a Mark II. I think it's due, and there's a few things that I would love to see in the next model generation. But from what it sounds like, the next model is going to be a ZV-1 type camera, but it's going to actually apparently have some features that are going to be borrowed from the Sony A1. I don't know what that means. That's what we're kind of getting rumored on. So I don't know what things they're going to borrow from the $6,000 flagship camera from Sony. If it's like an autofocus feature or what that might be, I'm not sure. But to be fair, like when they put out the ZV-1, they put out some functions and features in here that still don't exist on some of the better cameras. So.
Product showcase mode.
Yeah, product showcase. There's a lot of stuff that this little camera has that the other Sony cameras don't have yet, and that's kind of surprising to me. So, but it sounds like what the ZV-1 type, what they're thinking is they're going to make another camera that's going to be very popular with like vlogging and vloggers, that might be cheaper, might be less expensive than this. And I don't know, I don't know what that means, Paul, because this camera is pretty darn inexpensive to begin with for a
Right.
camera. So I don't know. Maybe it means is there not going to be 4K? Is there something that's going to be missing that this camera has, not one's not going to have?
I mean,
Or is it going to be a
in an
more
age of 8K, I feel like it'd be hard to cut the 4K.
Yeah.
I mean,
or is it going to be something that's just more, I wouldn't say dumbed down, but more like user friendly, where you turn it on and you just start shooting and that's it? Are they going to take some modes away and just make it simple to use? I don't know. But from all regards, the rumors that are talking right now is within April to like July, we're going to be seeing a ZV-1 type camera with some features potentially borrowed from the A1. That's what's kind of being leaked by someone who was a like part of the design or manufacture team, supposedly.
right.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's still interesting. We have a number of cameras that are kind of sold out states or on back order. Still this chip shortage is plaguing us, and it probably will be until the fall. Rumor has it, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with this new camera. Before we really dig into this too much further, I want to just encourage you guys, if you haven't yet already, to check out Kyle's channel. He's got a ton of great content on the ZV-1, and he, between accessories, settings, just demonstrating the capabilities and the portability of this little tiny camera, and there's just a lot of great functions. So make sure you go check out he's like the ZV-1 king right now. That's what we're gonna call him, the ZV-1 king.
No, but there's a lot of people who actually use the camera more than I do. I've used this plenty of times, but there's some channels that exclusively use this, and they have some pretty awesome content, and they can really show you what these cameras are capable of. So also, Paul, I was out in Florida last week, 2 weeks ago now, and we shot some videos, and the one I'm editing right now, you caught me this afternoon finishing it, is the ZV-1, specifically with the Crane M3.
Exactly.
So that video is coming out next. So if you guys want to check out what this camera looks like, I don't have the gimbal next to me. It's back there somewhere. It's that white thing on the shelf there. But we put the Crane M3 on a gimbal. We traveled the world. By that, I mean, we went to Epcot and went through all the different countries and kind of put together a little montage of what this camera can kind of do on a gimbal. So
yeah, and on my channel, we just did a little bit of a Q&A. There are some definitely some ZV-1 questions that were answered, and all those are in the video with timestamps. Yep. For some reason, I don't know why. I mean, I'm terrible. I always mistype and smell, but I mistyped. I got to make a new thumbnail because I totally mistyped the title on it, and I even sent it to Kyle, and he let me down. He didn't notice it either. So
I was at work when you sent me that, Paul, and I went,
"Oh, that's true.
Yep, that looks good.
Yep, that one looks great." And then his wife texted me today and was like, "Did you mean to misspell that?" I'm like,
Anwisser, answering your questions.
I'm surprised nobody else has said anything to me by this point. Usually, people in the comments are like, would say something, but I haven't heard anything. There's got a question here.
Yeah.
If it's a ZV-2, what could they add that would make it an instant upgrade from the ZV-1? Well, first, here I'm going to answer this question for my opinion. I think the instant upgrade for this, well, there's really two things that come to mind immediately. One is making the lens a little bit wider. 24 is a little bit too, I don't know, not wide enough for vlogging when you start turning on the active stabilization, and a lot of people are having to buy that wide angle lens adapter to get it. And it's a great little thing. It makes it a little bit bigger, but a lot of people want to keep that compact size. So if there's any way at all, Sony could maybe make that lens a little bit wider so that
this works.
Hey,
does it make it any wider? Hey, it does.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Paul, keep going here.
And then the second thing I was going to say, and then we can continue to speculate on what features we'd like to see, but is the battery door. I think they need to really fix that battery door design, like the tripod. You should not have to take it off your tripod or whatever it is to get that battery to come out. And the other feature that would really make this thing shine is if they could somehow, I don't know, if they somehow put either a bigger battery in there, a bigger milliamps battery, something to make the battery life better. Maybe upgrade a little bit of the camera settings so it doesn't burn the battery through the battery as much. But you want a bigger battery, but you want to keep the camera compact. So I don't know how Sony would tackle that, but it would be nice to have a little bit more battery life out of this thing. It only gets like 30 minutes of shooting off of a battery, and I feel like even when Kyle and I were shooting that Epcot video around the world, it's like, oh, the battery died again, and then you gotta like take the whole thing off the gimbal and slop it in, slop it out. So those are my 2 or 3 features that I would think would be an immediate like bonus. Just fixing those alone would make the camera even better, but I know that
Yeah.
Sony's got something else up their sleeve. So
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have the same list as you. My 3 things are they have to make the lens wider. If they make now, like to be fair, real quick, the next one that's going to come out, we don't know if it's a Mark II or ZV-2 or whatever you want to
Right.
call it. It could be a cheaper version of the camera that's more simplified. We don't know that exactly what it's going to be yet. But when this ultimately does have a Mark II that comes out for the ZV-1, that's kind of what I'm more referring to. If this other one comes out, I don't know what it's going to have. It's probably going to be, if it's a cheaper version of the ZV-1, it's going to be more simple. But
Right.
my dream list for the ZV-1 coming out moving forward is it has to have a wider lens. It has to have that 16 millimeter equivalent lens. That's like a must, because that is one of the biggest complaints about this camera is the lens is not wide enough. And they need, like you said, Paul, they need to address that plate where you screw the tripod in.
Right.
Sorry, not plate. The where the thread is for the thing, it interferes with the battery door. And that's why I said right away before in my accessories videos, you like getting this bottom plate is a must. It's like what is this, like a $18-20 part. I've never taken it off the bottom of this camera. That's like the only time I've ever had a plate or a cage that I don't take off, because now you can actually like keep it on a tripod and pop the battery door open. So they need to do something like this, whether it's built into the camera or not. I don't care what they do. They need to fix that. For
Do
me,
you
I
have
know that
experience of the wide lens falling off yours regularly when you have it on?
I've never, no. I mean, my adapter plates never came off, so I know they give you a couple extra stick down pieces for it, but I honestly, like, I keep the adapter plate, or I'm sorry, I keep the lens with me, and I don't use it all the time. I really only use if I know I'm going to be like holding it and vlogging, then I'll usually throw it on there. But if I'm filming other stuff, I usually don't even use it, and that's going to help the motors, because I'm sure the motors take a toll with heavier weight on it and stuff like that over time. But I only really use that when I need to. So most of the time I have it off. So
Does it have the same battery door as the RX-100? Do you know?
yes, yep. It's the
Yes,
same battery
same
door,
battery.
same battery door. The RX-100 is actually a little bit further away from the battery door. This one, if you look at where the thread screw hole is, it's like literally right where the battery door opens over it.
Right.
The other one is like right next to it once it's open. So, but that's why having this plate is nice, because it changes the locations of where you can put the like tripod. So, or like
Right.
a Arca Swiss or something. So that's been like my 100% must have for this. And they need to do something like this built into the camera. Obviously the battery would be nice to have if they could improve the battery. It's not going to happen if they want to keep the camera this small though. It's physics. It can't be bigger than the small little battery if it's going to be a compact camera. And if they put in the battery from like the ZV-E10 or something like that, then it's going to be the size of a ZV-E10. It's just, if they want to keep it this small, that's the only batteries they're going to get.
Well, I
So
mean, the only way to make it as efficiently maybe is somehow making a bigger milliamp rated battery in the same size or
which
software.
Even if they do that, it's not going to be by much. That's the problem. So the one thing that like my third thing is something that probably other people haven't really talked about, but the third thing that I want to see them improve on is dynamic range, because this camera overexposes really quickly. if you're holding it up, and it does, this thing has some really cool features where I think it's really only like program auto and intelligent mode, where once it gets face tracking, it'll actually expose to your face instead of like the background or whatever it is. So you'll see it like when you first put it on, it's not right away. It kind of takes like a few seconds. But once it exposes your face, you'll see what it does to the background as it blows it out really bad. And I would like to see this thing have more steps of dynamic range so that every time you use this camera, it like when I'm vlogging, every shot I have, backgrounds are always just blown out, like in the skies and stuff, because
Absolutely. Yeah, the skies
just-
are always blown out. Yeah.
it can't handle that dynamic range. And obviously I'm not expecting it to be like the A7S3 where that has 15, 16 stops of usable dynamic range.
Gordon
this thing-
Reed, we are sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah.
We're just talking. We kind of mentioned this earlier in the beginning. You know, we're just going all over features that we like to see in the new ZV-2 or whatever. If the second rendition ends up being, I know that we did announce that Sony is working on something for the spring, but we don't know if it's going to be a successor to the ZV-2 or if it's going to be like a cheaper version. The only thing we know is it's going to be a new ZV-1 type of camera.
Yep.
So whether it's a successor to it or a cheaper version or something along those lines, we have no idea right now. We're just speculating, having fun, talking about that topic. So
Yep.
that's what we're doing here tonight.
Yeah, they said ZV-1 type camera with some features borrowed from the A1. That's all I know. Which is, if that's true, then it's actually cheaper. I'm going to be surprised though, Paul. That's so.
Right. Yeah, I mean, cheaper. It'd be interesting if they, it'd be interesting if they even made it better. Because we were all shocked with the ZV-1, right? Where it was cheaper than the RX
100.
line. So maybe there's a possibility that they're going to make jam pack this thing with even more features, and then price it around the same price as their RX line cameras of like $1,000, $1,100 or something like that, and then maybe they'll be able to fix a lot of these issues and provide more stuff. Like it'll be like an A1 ZV-1. That makes sense,
So the one thing that I would like to see, another feature that they would put in, is I want to see 2 different stops of ND, because there's a built-in ND filter in here that's digital. You hit the button and it'll turn on the ND filter. I would like to see it have like 2 stops, like 2 steps of dynamic, like because right now I think it's only a 1-stop ND filter, or maybe a 2-stop. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I would like to see another one that you could go darker, so you'd have like 2, like an ND1 and an ND2 or something like that. Or like in photography, they have an auto ND filter, which is nice, but in video, it doesn't do that. It would be kind of cool if it did it in ND, like the ND would go auto. That way, if you're running in like a different aperture priority or something, and you go from inside to outside, it would like automatically turn on. That would be awesome. Or vice versa, turn off when you go inside.
Absolutely.
Like there would be some kind of threshold. That would be cool. Otherwise, there's not a lot to improve on this thing. I would guess if they went to a wider lens, the aperture will go up a little bit. I know they kind of did that on one of the other point and shoots when they went to a slightly wider lens. They couldn't keep that like 1.8, so then it went up to like a 2.2 or something. I can't remember what the camera that was right offhand. But the thing that is that like ZV-1 right now, these things are really doing well on the market because there's no competitor to this camera. Like the G7X is the only thing that's close to this from Canon, and that's more expensive and it's not as good.
Right.
I think the Mark III or whatever they're on now finally got like a mic jack, but like it's a little funny that we finally got a camera like this that just automatically comes with, an HDMI out, a multi-port, and a microphone input, and people are like not even using the microphone anymore. But when they had the G7X, that was the one in the RX 100. That was the biggest complaint, was put a darn microphone input on there, so we can actually have some good audio. And then they just put this thing out, and no one uses the mic anyways. So, but
GH or CH Gadget says, you think it's gonna be like a 16 to 50? What kind of lens would you like to see on this?
I would guess a 16 to 50. I mean, 16 to 50 is kind of their kit lens range for a lot of their other cameras.
Right.
That's a good focal range, I think. I mean, granted, like a 16 to 50 on the ZV-10 is actually like a 24 to 70 probably, because it's a full frame equivalent. When they say 24 to 70 on this, that's already the full frame equivalent. Otherwise, it would be probably, I don't even know what they would actually call this lens, but they always say 24 to 70 full frame equivalent. I would like to see a 16. If they could do a 16 to 70, that would be awesome. But I don't know how many people actually use the zoom on this camera. That's something we talked about in that gimbal video, Paul, that's coming out. When you're holding this camera, it's so small and it's so easy to move that like when you're zoomed all the way to 70, it's really tough to make that look good, even with the auto stable or
It was very hard, yeah.
stabilization. If you're on a tripod, that makes, that's fine. But like when you're on a gimbal, once we were on that gimbal, I was putting this thing to 70 a lot because it was like you got some really cool compression. And it's a look that you don't normally see out of this camera because most people just
Can't
shoot
do
it
right.
at wide open angle. So,
somebody, Gordon Reed says, I was saving for the A7 IV, and now I gotta wait. I keep getting the Sigma Primes and a Sony 10 to 18.
I want to get that Sony 10 to 18 again, Paul. I had borrowed one for a while. It's a great lens for the crop body APS-C line, like the A6400 ZV-10.
Very much so.
I didn't like it at first because it was expensive. When you see these things retail at $900, granted you can find them used for $400 or $500 sometimes. And it's an f4, and I was like, it's not the greatest lens. And then I actually tried it on the ZV-10 and was just kind of like, okay, so it's stabilized. You don't need to use that active stabilization, which crops a ton. It looks cool. And then one day I just threw it on the A7S III, and it definitely at 10 millimeters gives you crazy vignetting. But if you just zoom it into like 12, it looks awesome. And it's a 12 millimeter lens at that point. And then I showed you a video clip of it. This is back like 6-7 months ago. And then I know recently Matty Apoya just did a video on using that lens on like the A7S III, and it looks cool. So
yeah,
off topic there totally, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of cool. That lens is very interesting. But yeah, 16 to 70 with a 2.8. I don't know. I don't want to see that lens. I want to see wider. I just want to. That seems like a too big of a zoom range. I don't see that happening. They've got to keep it to like a 16 to 50.
It'll probably be, if they do go down to a 16, it'll be probably 16 to 50. Now, if they can go down further, that would be really cool. But once again, I don't know. I do think that if they do have a cheaper version on the ZV-1 Type that's going to come out here, possibly in April to June, I'm almost guessing it maybe won't have the Zeiss lens on here. That's one thing they could do to like cut some like budget out of the camera, because like right now, if you see these cameras, this is actually a Zeiss lens on this thing, so they're paying another company to make the lens for them, and then like they're paying to have that logo also on their camera, because that's just what happens when you hire third parties to join you on a project. So whatever this ZV-1 Type camera is, maybe it won't have a Zeiss.
That'd be interesting. Somebody says, Deontay, man, what's up, dude? Great to see you. Could we be getting a ZV-based full-frame camera? I don't think so. That's the sensor is like as big as the camera.
Yeah. That's a good thought though, because maybe that's what they could reserve the RX 100 for, because the RX 100 is still like a $1,200 camera, which makes no sense because all the video functions aren't really even as good as what's on here. Granted, it takes like way better photos, but like, does anyone even buy the RX 100 line anymore, being that it's twice the price of this camera? I don't think so.
It would be really hard to imagine. But if you gotta think, man, if a camera that size, the full frame, the heat alone would be insane.
Yeah,
but
probably have some problems for sure on that.
I don't know. Maybe, but I don't think we're quite there yet. But the ZV-1 was a point and shoot, and the ZV-10 was an APS-C. So the next step is full frame.
So there is another rumor. I know this is a whole different topic to talk about. There is another rumor about, and this has been floating on for a while, that there may be another APS-C line camera coming out that might be like an A7000 or or an A5, they might call it, which is basically, it sounds like what's going to be what the A7C already is, but
Right.
it's like a full frame. It's not, I don't know. There was something teased by Sony saying there's another APS-C style camera that's not a set, like a predecessor to anybody or successor to another camera line. So I'm guessing if they did have something, it'd be like an A7000 series maybe, or an A5, because they've been teasing that A5 for a couple years, being like a full frame budget camera.
Yeah.
So
They've been, but I thought the A7C was pretty much a budget camera. I mean, I guess it's still a little steep, but I mean, I don't know. You can't expect the world. Anyway, what's your thoughts on the Sony releasing a brand new camera in 2023, called that Batman 2.0 camera for men? What?
I have no idea what this is.
I don't know. I think it's pretty cool camera, especially being made for a specific gender. It seems cool. I have no idea we have no idea what you're talking about. They're gonna be releasing.
Is his photo you, Paul?
No, I don't think so, but it looks like it would be like my background, right?
Well, I mean,
He's
his
the best
little
color in the
icon
world.
looks like a picture of you.
Oh, it does kind of look like a picture of me.
So maybe someone's trolling you, Paul. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like a little bit of a troll there, I guess. That's a very interesting. That's on your channel too, though. Matthew Smith Undercover. I don't know, Mr. Undercover. It's a very nice looking picture you have there. It's a stud.
If they could put an APS-C, like this is the next question here. It'd be cool if they put an APS-C sensor in the ZV-2. I don't know how they would do that because this thing is really cram-packed as much already as it is, but I guess that'd be kind of cool, but it'd be recycling an old sensor again. I think that's pretty much a ZV-E10 what that camera is. So
Right.
if they could make that camera any more compact, I guess that would be kind of cool, but I don't know. You're going to lose a lot of things with options if they make any more improvements on the sensor. I think they can improve the sensor, maybe do some different things inside this. But if you do go to that if you go to like an APS-C size sensor, they're going to probably lose the ND filter inside the camera as well, which is something that I like about this camera. So
I would be thrilled with a 60mm prime, but I don't think it's going to happen for that camera. People do stuff. I think it'd be cool to be maybe like a 16-35 lens on the ZV-1. That would be cool, and it wouldn't be, you don't need as much, range as a 50mm, but I think, putting 16-35 on there would give it a nice range and allow them to make, maybe make that happen. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, most people use this for vlogging, I would say. Most. I mean, what do you say? I mean, Kyle, you have one. So.
I mean, okay, so like the main uses for this camera is either people who are beginning using cameras, starting their like YouTube channels, vlogging. It's a good camera that if you don't have like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to spend on all this equipment we always buy, this is like a great option to start anything with because it does 4K, it does slow motion. You can turn the screen to yourself. It generally looks pretty good. If you're not doing a lot of movements, this thing will look very similar to a lot of the other Sony cameras. Speaking of which, Paul, one of the rumors on the new ZV models is the introduction of like S-Cinetone.
Yeah.
I once again, I said this before. Why all these Sony cameras don't have this color profile by now is beyond me. It's just
right.
a built-in profile. It's just to give you that kind of slightly lifted shadows, like S-Log graded like footage. But I know I forget what I was saying a minute ago.
Desmond has a really good point, and I actually forgot all about this camera. I feel like it kind of came out and nobody talked about it. The RX1R, it's a full frame compact camera with a fixed 35mm lens, and it's like $3,200 or something like that. It's got a 42 megapixel sensor. So I mean, it pretty much looks like a RX camera with like a, a interchangeable lens like a small interchangeable lens on the front of it. Once again, by Zeiss.
Yeah, I forgot about that too, Paul. And it's funny because I remember saying this when the ZV-E10 first came out, saying it's the first like compact camera with interchangeable lenses. Like, well, don't they already have that? And the other one's full frame. But yeah, I mean that camera, it came out and no one bought it, and it kind of just immediately stopped
So I
production of
mean,
it.
maybe it is possible to actually get something that's a full frame camera in that size. So it'll be interesting. That's an interesting point. I forgot all about that. Somebody also said it'd be cool to have an APS-C lens. I think you were that's what you were talking about, and you kind of forgot about what you're getting off topic there.
It's pretty much the ZV-E10.
The
That camera is just, it's not that much bigger than this. So
it really is not. Yeah,
it has a bigger grip and bigger battery. So
the FX3 is basically a full frame ZV-10. I mean, the FX3 is
it's
a
still
little bit bigger,
camera.
but that's a great camera. 16 prime would be amazing. All Sony cameras dating back to 2007 were all tested in sophisticated frames per second. Yeah, I mean, 16 millimeter would be amazing. I would be totally happy with that. ZV-10 has a slow readout, though bad roller.
Yep, it's the old sensor from the A6400, so it gets a lot of shutter roll. That's kind of the problem. If they could update that to another sensor, that would be great. That's why I kind of like the ZV-1 better than the ZV-E10 in some regards, because you can wing this thing all over the place, and this thing stays pretty good looking for shutter roll. Now, if you're shooting in 1080, then it doesn't matter. Then there's like almost none.
This is interesting. The phone does look like it's like, I don't know. They did something interesting with that phone. It's still a little too pricey for most people to spend on a phone. It's crazy, but it looks cool. I mean, I give them kudos for trying. I mean, I'll give them that. They're innovating for sure. You can't really doubt that. The next APS-C must have a new sensor with a faster. Yes, I mean, Kyle just pretty much said that too. Is they're just reusing an old sensor.
He also said he wants to see a like a 4K 60 10-bit. I mean, we could see 4K 60 in a smaller APS-C. I just don't think 10 bit's going to be a thing we see for a while on APS-C lines. It depends on what the market is and what their competition does, I guess. But if you start adding 4K 60 and 10-bit to like these APS-C camera lenses or cameras, you're going to start seeing $2,000 price tags or more, just because that's what's going to happen with those two. So I can't see them, like Sony has their cameras set up with hierarchies and price points, and they're not going to make every one of their cameras have the same functions. Otherwise they get too expensive.
He was saying that the ZV-1 is better. The phone is way too expensive. It's funny. You put all those features. I mean, I feel like the ZV-1 holds up to the phone, and you put but then again, it's the thing about the phone is you always have the phone with you. You don't necessarily always have your ZV-1 with you. I mean, you could. It's small enough to ish, but you're not. I don't know. But I just commend them for even trying that. So that's cool. We got Kyle just said that, but the chat's delay. Yeah, there is a delay in the chat. It's funny. It's funny how that works for you guys. I it throws me off. Yeah.
It's what is this thing? The other thing with phones too is that you just have to get the footage off your phone and either email each one to yourself or airdrop everything, and it gets to be kind of a headache and can fill up your phone if you have record too much. So that's why I like dedicated cameras, even if they may or may not look as good as a camera. So, or a cell phone camera, because you can just take the SD card out and boom, there you go.
Let's see what else we got. Any questions in the chat? We got some more people chatting over here. The Xperia sensor is a tender inch. What? A tender inch, not really the real deal. Yeah, I mean, yeah. 1 inch is actually awesome for video. I mean, I think the ZV-1 looks pretty good. Just the, it's you have to have a lot of light, so it looks really great outside. Once you start getting into those lower lights, that's where that 1-inch sensor really starts to struggle. But it's expected. It's just a tiny little camera, tiny little dinky thing. Is that the next phone improvement in the market? All becoming a 1-inch sensor? I mean, yeah. I mean, I hey I think the better phones get cameras, the better everything is gonna get. Like it just when you make while they're making these phones better, it's gonna have to improve our full frame cameras, our APS-C camera. I mean, all the cameras have got to get better if our phones are getting better because they've got to compete
Mhm.
and keep people wanting to buy and give people a reason to buy these things. So I'm all for phones getting bigger sensors, and I mean it'd be kind of funny to have a phone with a full frame sensor on the back of it. That's probably not going to happen, but I mean as sensor technology gets better, I mean it's just bound to happen. Look, I mean
I think you're going to start seeing more software technology applied to these cameras more than
I would love to see that. I mean, we're at the point now where every camera looks pretty darn
yeah.
good. I would like to see more of the features and the internals get better and really compete against some of these smartphones. And some people are like, "Well, that makes no sense," you know. But how cool you could have a smaller if you could somehow combine the smartphone technology where you're using, these processors to render these like, background blur and bokeh. You could get F1, F2 or F1, F1.2, bokeh out of like an F4 lens or a F5 point. So you could have these maybe lenses that don't need to do as much of the heavy lifting and let the
Mhm.
software do a lot of it, and you can keep your camera setups compact. I don't know. I just think it's a very interesting market, and it would help for these cameras like the ZV-1 where you could help get these compact wide angle lenses like our phones have, and you know have it in a small package and still keep, and maybe it'll also help the battery life. I don't know, but
Yeah. And I'm not saying like have this thing switch to like what iPhone does with their fake bokeh and stuff, but like they could incorporate some of that technology into stuff too, where maybe you could change focus points or something like that, or
well, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying go full
because
out
yeah, the iPhone
portrait
stuff
mode.
I think looks. I mean, like someone said, it looks vomit. It's some of that fake bokeh looks terrible, and you get
Well,
the
yeah,
halo
because it
effects
can't
on
tell
people. And
where the real. I mean, sometimes you're blurred
yeah,
out.
but they're
You can.
going from like a very fixed aperture to like a fake low aperture. If you already have a low aperture, if they could add some of that tech to make it just a little bit more,
Right.
I think it wouldn't be so obvious. And that's kind of more what I'm getting at. But even just like I don't know, there's so much tech that's getting like right now. What's making camera phones better is the software and tech that's going into them, not so much the lenses and
I
whatever, but
mean, it's
the processor
amazing
too.
that how the quality that you're getting out of these phones with tiny sensors, and
Yeah,
those lenses are probably dirt cheap. And here they're getting, I wouldn't say they're beating out or, anything, but
no,
they're kind of able to hold up to some of our full frame cameras as far as just the quality goes. I'm not saying they're identical, but you look how far phones have come and
yeah,
you
2 years
we
even.
used to take pictures on phones and like these things are terrible. Now people are just some people are perfectly fine using it, that's all they need.
Mhm,
So if we can somehow use this, you know, technology and this and the beef to I mean, imagine how much better these cameras could look if they were to integrate some of those. Just that feature alone, just to using the AI and to make this image itself look better. Maybe you're still using the bokeh, and I like that was kind of what I was going at with the bokeh. I'm like, I don't want to replace bokeh off of a lens, but if you can maybe the camera can sense where the having the natural bokeh and then maybe just enhancing it a little bit because just where it is naturally, So just like you said, maybe we can get a lower aperture look, but by just increasing where the other bokeh is and then making it look more natural than what a phone could. I mean, and I don't know. We're just speculating here, and it would be
mhm.
cool to have a lot of these features. Maybe some of these features added into a ZV-1 as like a little test bunny of what they can really do because those things are there's only so much you can do with a small camera, and that's why they're having to use a lot of software for these phones. So,
well, that's why I was thinking too. Like, there's only a couple upgrades that I want to see in the next version of this camera, and that's more or less because this thing already had a lot of tech put into it. So maybe we already are starting to see some of it, and it's in this thing. So
interchangeable lenses are definitely better, no doubt, and they are getting crazy expensive. Sony is kind of staying at the same price range right now, but I'm feeling based on some of these camera prices, you're going to start seeing some of those hike up. And I mean, at least they're still cheaper than the RF lenses and the L mount, the light, those L mounts and the RF lenses are super expensive. What about the next RX10? The RX10 Mark V. If the ZV-2 is around the corner, I would think that the next RX10 would also, same 1-inch sensor. And I think, Kyle and I have maybe hinted at this in the past.
Is he mean RX100 or RX10? Because the RX10 was like a big, bulky, old school, like
I'm thinking
camera,
I feel like he meant the RX100. Because I feel like the RX series is, I don't want to say dead, but kind of dead. I mean, with the ZV-1, I mean, who's buying a $1,000 RX camera right now when you can buy a ZV-1 for like, $700, $800, and
no, you said RX10. Yeah. I honestly don't know anything about the RX10. I've never really looked into it myself. So
he said the RX10.
it's kind of a big bubbly looking DSLR or something like that. I guess. I don't know. It's a cyber shot. So
I have not seen one of these. Oh, these are like the DSLR size non-interchangeable with a fixed lens, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know much about these ones. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know much about these either. I mean, it's interesting, but I mean, I feel like if you're going to have a camera that size, I'd rather have an interchangeable lens so I can have a lot of diversity with it. But yeah, I've never had any experience with those. Unbox Warehouse, what's up, man? Mike, another Sony shooter in the house. People call it a bridge camera. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting what Sony does, and I'm a little confused that right now they're doing anything with cameras because they can't even produce the ones they have. So, like,
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
maybe that'll change soon again too. I don't know. It depends on which part of which shortage it is. If it's still part of the chip shortage, or if it's the silicon that goes into the chips. I don't know. Maybe it's just a manufacturing employee shortage. It's hard to tell what it is. It's probably a combination of just everything, but he's only Sony shooter because of camera camp. Is that what CC?
Because of camera camp.
Right.
I don't know if it was only because of camera camp. I feel like you shot Sony before camera camp. I think he just wanted to throw camera. He wanted to see me get excited about camera camp. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but Kyle and I are very excited about Creator Camp because we are very, very, very close to getting this thing going. We already have a calendar. We already have some guests lined up. Some pretty good sized guests. Sidney DeYoung's in, Chris Brockhurst, to name a few, and we've got more coming. And we're just getting started with this. So Kyle did a really, I gotta say, we got together when he was down here in Florida. We shot some footage, and Kyle did a fantastic edit for our intro, and it's funny. The people that we've shown Sydney and a lot of other big creators.
Well, I left a gap in the video that we can put each different creator that's a guest. Like,
right.
We're showing. So it's kind of like, in a way, like an SNL, how they have the tonight's guest, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So I've like spent lots of hours scrolling through all these different people's videos trying to find the right 2-second clip to use. So it's been a little bit of work to do, but it's there's some funny ones. There's some really funny ones so far. Of just like you can't. I don't know. Part of me like wanted to send it to each person to be like, "Hey, we're cool with this, right?" So you don't look like an idiot. But like part of it's once you see the theming, you'll understand why it's like
You know
they
what?
can be totally
You know
silly
what?
clips and whatever.
I'm cool
So
with that. For you guys that tuned in tonight, you know what?
well, let's
You
if you're gonna
guys,
do that, if you're gonna do that, Paul, let me actually load up a better one so people can actually see.
okay, yeah. You know what? If you guys stay tuned tonight, you know what? I'll tell you what. You guys stay tuned a little bit longer. And in 15 minutes, or 10 minutes, I'll post I'll post at the end before we close out the stream. I will post out that the little intro that we're gonna be doing for Creator Camp because it's really cool. It's gonna be a fun little stream, and you're gonna get to know your creators a little bit more. So if you guys have guests that you really want to see, uh, let us know in the comments or send Kyle and I a DM on one of our social medias, and tell us who you'd like to see. What's your favorite creators that you'd like to see? Because we want to we might even have Mike from Unbox Warehouse could be a special guest. You just never know.
Yeah, and
We
we're probably not going to be talking so much about like the camera gear and everything like that. This is going to be more of a
personalized like thing,
personal. Yeah, we're going to have guests on. I mean, no doubt we're going to start if something's going on that week. It's going to happen. It's going to get talked about.
right?
So, but mostly it's going to be kind of just getting to know the people that we watch on YouTube all the time and like finding out maybe some stuff that you haven't known about them. Maybe I don't know. So I got that one uploading, Paul, right now. The original one I uploaded, Paul, was just kind of the generic one with no personal like
Yeah, I
special
saw that.
guests
Yeah.
on. So yeah,
Which one are you gonna post up there?
I'm gonna put Sydney's up there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he'll
Sydney
probably
helped us a lot. He gave us a lot of his, allowed us to use a lot of his footage, which you're gonna sprinkle into this video because it's like a mixture of our footage, Sydney DeYoungson's footage, and Dunna did it. He also Dunna was allowing us to use a lot of his footage from the camera camp. I mean, we're just using it because this is kind of like our camp vibe. Like the feel for this stream is like you're talking to your creators around a campfire. It's not it's not a real camp yet. I mean, we would maybe one day we get to do it. That's a goal and aspiration for it. But this is going to be like we're going to podcast this. We're going to take the audio, rip it, put it into a podcast format, and this is going to be a live stream. It's going to be streaming on our channels. So.
Mm-hmm. But also we are going to have on, like right now, I know one of the first 3 guests are all people who use this camera as well. I mean, they also use a bunch of other stuff, but actually, I think 5 of the guests that we have booked right now are all pretty solid ZV-1 users as well. So,
And
I remember what I was talking about, Paul, before. So
okay.
before I was saying that a lot of people use this for like vlogging and things like that. The other most common uses for these are like overhead rigs, because it's a lot easier to put a camera like this on like a boom, aim down at your unboxing stuff, or just like people use this sometimes like a GoPro where they can put it in spots where you can't put like big cameras, just for those kind of interesting shots that aren't using a GoPro, because GoPros
Absolutely.
very much look like GoPros. So that's another thing that why I think a lot of people use this camera is they use it for other reasons too. I know Terry Warfield uses one, kind of, he has like one on his boom, like over his shoulder, that aims down at his computer. So when he's doing desk stuff, that like a lot of his secondary shots are using the ZV-1.
Terry Warfield, his clip was hilarious that you did. That was funny.
I think does Tom Buck still use a ZV-1, or is he pretty much all full frames now across the?
I mean, I think he has a ZV-1 just for portable stuff. I mean, in his studio he uses all now Sony full frame cameras pretty much.
Yeah, I know he owns like 3 A7 S3s, so maybe he finally got rid of the ZV-1. But
he got an FX3.
I like this for overhead shots because you don't need a big rig to hold this up. You just need something that's, I don't know, heavy duty enough to hold up.
We'll have Tom Buck's an
camera.
interesting guy. We'll definitely have him on the stream as well. And we've built relationships with a lot of decent sized creators, and they're all. I mean, that's a cool thing. There are a lot of these guys are just willing to join, so it's going to be a really neat stream for sure. I have one of those. See, even Mike has one of those. he
Uses
couldn't
for an
tell
overhead.
what it was when he saw it, but he has one of those. So all right, real quick, what is your biggest? So we've already talked. Is there anything else you'd like to see in the ZV-2 like we haven't talked about already tonight?
I mean, to me, the one thing I want the most is a wider lens and better dynamic range. I can deal with the fact that, like, you can deal with the fact that you can put a plate on the bottom to move the tripod. Is it ideal? No, whatever. But I want to keep a lens that's more compact, that I don't have to carry this other thing around. This isn't tough to carry around, but it's another thing you have to carry for sure. And I would like to just see the actual part of the camera part being like the dynamic range improved. Even if it's just a little bit, that would be nice. So, and also because of that, it's not just like when you go outside and it blows out all the sky. It's also when you're in low light.
Right.
It has to lift the shadow so much that it gets really noisy. And then even then, if you like expose it too much, then you start overexposing with those lights that are in the frame. So I don't know what the actual dynamic range is, but I would guess that's probably like 6 or 7 stops of usable range. And I would like to see it like maybe 10 or 12 would be great. It's not going to get to 15 or 17 like the A7S III, but that'd be like, that to me would be the biggest improvement, is like the dynamic range would make this thing look way better. And it'll look more like the more expensive cameras.
Yep. That would be huge. That the lighter ends, the battery, sure, but yeah, I think I would like to see better dynamic range, and I do like the idea of having a better ND filter in there too. Getting a little bit more, because even in the daylight we sometimes struggle to get that not overexposed. So,
well, if you're using something like aperture priority, I used to manual everything on this camera, and I started getting to the point where I was like, it's just too much work sometimes to go manual everything, because if you're walking, you have to adjust it. Like, you get somewhere like, oh, now I'm overexposed, I got to adjust it a little bit. So I started doing what Peter Lindgren was doing, and I've been shooting more in aperture priority mode. So I set that what I want it, and I just let the shutter speed do what it does. But even then, it's kind of doesn't look great sometimes, and then that ND filter is not enough, and you'll still see that it's skyrocketing in that shutter speed. So
ZV-2 is supposed to be better than the ZV-E10. I mean, I don't think it's
yeah.
supposed to be better. I think it's going to be just different, because I mean, it's the ZV-E10 is made to be like a.
Well, the sensor's better for sure on the ZV-E10, but there's a lot of functions that are better on the ZV-1. So
Right.
they're both better at different things. The overall image, I think, can be similar, but that sensor being a bigger sensor is a better sensor for for light and the actual image. But when you move the camera around, the shutter roll on that other one is terrible, and it's good on the ZV-1. So
weird. I don't see it on in our stream, but I see it in my window for chat. I don't know why it didn't show up. Desmond Wong, he said, I'd love to see the ZV-2 work with the digital interface hot shoe, so we can use the wireless Sony mics like the Sony ECM-B1M. I would agree with that statement. I would really like to see that as well. It's just weird that your comment didn't pop up in nowhere.
I always kind of wondered, did the ZV-1 not have that then? Because
no, it doesn't. No.
Okay, because it has some sort of electronic something on the top where I can see the like the actual connection points. So maybe that's for a flash or something else. Then I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it's for, but it's not compatible with the wireless mics, which is weird. But
I've never used those mics, so I don't know. I use a lot of Rode products, so I know the second I would use one of those, I would want one, and then they're expensive. So
yeah, we'll have to send Desmond. Desmond could be another good guest for our creator camp. We'll have to send him a invite to that calendar. Desmond, we'll hit you up, man.
So
People
will
hit
the
you.
ZV-2 have interchangeable lenses? I doubt it. I would. They're going to keep it a compact camera. They'll make the like ZV-E10 or APS-C line the ones that keep those interchangeable lenses. So
The ZV-E, whatever, will be the
yeah,
interchangeable lens ones, and yeah,
why they called it the E10, I still don't understand. But I get the E probably means like E mount,
email.
but
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I would like. Point and shoot camera is going to have a fixed lens for sure. I'd like to see it wider though.
I feel like Sony has been pushing out cameras fast since the A7 III. I mean, they come out with a few cameras each year, and so this ZVE2 or whatever it's going to be is going to be coming out in the spring, and then they're going to have like rumored to have like 2 other interchangeable lens bodies coming out in the fall once they catch up with the whole chip shortage thing. But
Well,
yeah,
some
I
of these
mean,
other camera companies they want to make like one camera for a broader amount of people. Sony's kind of like, we're going to make this camera for this people. We're going to make this camera for this people. We're going to make this camera for this people. They really want to really like as many like people happy for like the specific style camera they want, versus Canon's kind of like, oh, here's our point and shoot. You want it? Okay, cool. If you want something better, then you have this.
right.
Versus like Sony's like, well, we got the A6400, we got the A6600, we got the ZV-E10. They just really want to put as many cameras out there as they can.
They're definitely trying to be a
And
people pleaser company. Like they listen to the people. They're like, "Oh, you don't like that? Well, we'll make something for that then." And and it's
But they
it's
all
kind
have
of
one.
funny,
They all seem to have a flaw though that we want to change.
right?
So,
Well, I mean,
if they make everyone happy with one camera, they'll never sell cameras again. That's the problem.
that's right. That's right. Um, let's see. What does this person say? The big feature that is missing on the ZV-1 is auto white balance lock. You can't see this function on any other custom buttons. It's just missing. Yep.
I mean, Paul, you know me.
Yeah.
I walk around with a gray card in my pocket all the time. So I auto white balance pretty much everything on every camera. Sometimes on the ZV-1, I don't. If we're like when we were doing the gimbal video, we were moving around way too much through different lighting, it was cloudy and then it was sunny and then it was cloudy. And I just said, screw it. And I put auto white balance on. But when I'm grading my footage now, I'm noticing that I'm having to match and tweak my footage quite a bit to make it look right. So I agree with that though. Auto white balance lock would be great.
APS-C size sensor in a ZV-1 could be interesting. I will agree with that. That could be interesting. Will the ZV-2 have interchangeable lenses? Yeah, we already kind of went over that. I think they're sticking that to the keeping that with a ZV-E line.
I think you're backtracking too far.
Oh, I'm backtracking too much. What am I doing?
Okay, so he wrote, I don't grade any footage. I'm too lazy. So when I'm referring to grading footage on the ZV-1, I'm more talking about like my highlight, shadows, mid-range. And then if the white balance is off, I'll move the temp slider a little bit or something like that. You can't really grade 8-bit footage that great without pushing it too hard and then having it fall apart and getting artifacts and noise. So.
I'm with him though, man. I'm not. I struggle with grading footage. That even with a LUT, like I feel like I can convert a LUT, and I'm just trying to move the sliders to try to get it perfect. I don't know.
Well, like when I gave you that, so I've been shooting S-Log3 since the day I bought the A7S3, and I originally was crap at grading it because it's just something different. And then I feel like it's something you get better at the more you do. And I gave you all my footage from Florida before I left, so you could use in anything that you were doing when we were filming. And then I got back home, I was like, you know what? I just thought about it, but I think like half my footage was in S-Log3. So Paul's going to have a really fun time trying to grade any of this because I don't think you've ever graded. You've been using a Cinetone on that camera. So,
yep.
So immediately it was like, okay, Paul, here's my LUTs that I use for corrections, and here's kind of what I do. And even then, once you have all that, it's still just kind of like, oh, wow.
Well,
this would have been just.
The funny part was I felt like I had an easier time grading that than I did the then the footage that was shot in standard just didn't. I don't know. It seemed a little
look right,
flat, and it was overexposed a little bit, and I couldn't recover. Like I just couldn't recover it.
Well, the thing with like those cameras too is, and the ZV-1's even worse. When you bring it into the footage, I'll see that the shadows are below 0 and the highlights are like way above 100. So like you can lower your highlights, but it's still overexposed. You're never going to fix that. And you can raise your shadows, and that always looks good. So like I tend to kind of underexpose the ZV-1 at times, so I don't know. Paul just
It's
started doing white balance.
it's a joke. Even Chris Brockhurst will mess with me if when we have him on live. He's gonna probably comment on my white balance looking.
Yeah, I guarantee he'll come on. I'll do his joke right now. He'll probably come on and do something like if I can get this to work here. He'll probably do something like this, Paul, when
Yeah,
he comes on the show. Because he's funny like that.
yeah. I
Okay,
can
I'm
certainly
messing up
see.
my
You look
sorry,
a little
Paul.
blue there.
Yeah, you know, waiting
Well,
for
I
that
appreciate
ZV.
everybody for sticking this long.
Yep.
And for that reason alone, we'll give you a little preview. I wasn't gonna do this, but we're like, whatever. So I don't know which one it is. You just roll whichever one you
Well,
want.
yeah, so we're gonna start this maybe March 2nd at this point. I'm trying to get everyone. So I got everyone who's agreed to do it, and they all say like, "Oh, I'll do early March," or "Oh, late March," and then you're like, "Okay, well, I need an actual date." So we're still working on half the dates, but this is going to be Sydney's episode. I'm going to show that one, and we're going to have a countdown still we have to make, Paul, before this,
Right.
because the countdowns are important. It makes we wait until everyone gets into the room, but this will be part of the countdown intro prior to us coming on the show.
Welcome to.
That's what we've been working on, and that's why it's taken way too long to. We should have been. I mean, we would have started this a while ago, Paul, if we would have just been able to get some of these things in place.
Yeah.
But as soon as I really started doing it, it started snowing in Minnesota, and it stopped looking like summer. So I was like, well,
Gotta
the
come
only
down.
way we're going to do this is I'm going to have to come back down to Florida or something, and we're going to have to shoot something down there. So, but yeah, that's done. We're just finishing our segments, and we're lining up all of our guests right now. And this live stream will kind of merge over to that version of the live stream, and
Absolutely.
should be fun. We'll still talk gear. I mean, that's not going to stop. Obviously, any like rumors, cameras that come out, we're going to be talking about. You can get people together, like different YouTubers in the same room together, and they'll start to talk about like real life stuff, but then it'll just move into gear talk anyway. So it'd be foolish for me to think, Paul, that we're going to just get to know these people personally and not have gear talk on the show. So
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a serious problem. I need to be able to shoot 4K video with the A7R 4 on the 16-35 GM at wide, but I read that the 82mm variable NDs create vignetting that destroys the video. What do I do? Do you
I use an 82mm vignette? I mean, ND. You're gonna need a step up ring because that lens is only I think that lens is what, a 72 or something.
No, I'm pretty sure it's a
16. He said 16-35.
16-35 GM. I'm pretty sure that's an 80.
I mean, if it's wider, it shouldn't make any difference. I mean, I've been using mine on all my lenses, so
right. I mean, I don't know why.
I mean, you're gonna get some vignetting on anything that's like a 16mm, but it's not going to be like awful. But I mean, you're going to get vignetting on the lens itself, even so.
Yeah, the filter size is an 82mm. So
okay. I don't know. Go watch every Matty Apoya video ever. He
I mean, he's using
exclusively
ND
uses
filters. So.
Peter McKinnon 82 millimeter filters. So same with Peter Langren. He uses that 16 to 35 almost exclusively on his shots with ND filters. So I mean, you're going to get some vignetting on any. I mean, like I said, I think you get vignetting with that lens. Period. But
I got the 70-200 GM2 and Go. All the 77mm threads for it and the lens coat coming, but I'm unsure what to do about the filter situation to enable 60. I mean, like we said, man, I think you'll be fine. Just get a good quality VND. I think the worst quality VNDs are going to see more vignetting. So
right.
It really depends on which ND filter you're currently using. You know, we have had experience using the Freewells, and they've been great. I know that Kyle has too. He uses the Freewell magnetic set it like I do, but he also has some of the Peter McKinnon glass, and those are, I mean, Polar Pro definitely did a great job of those, and that's what you're paying the top dollar for. Um, I'm trying to get some more review. Like if you see the KNF Concepts video on my YouTube channel, it's like it's okay. It's got a little bit of vignetting and a green cast. So
If you get the
when you
3, I think it
get those
starts
cheaper ones, they don't perform nearly as well. Now I am starting to work with a company called Tide, and I have right now I'm using like a mist filter that's on this just to make this light and this light kind of like misty and kind of not super sharp. I got to do a video on this. I'm be doing a video probably next is my next video for this. It's cool. I like it. But I'm really interested to see what their VNDs are like and kind of comparing them to some of the Freewell stuff because they are about $50 too. But once again, I can't vouch for them, but I know that other budget VNDs that I've used, they're good for the money, but nothing compares to spending like a good $200 and $250 on a nice solid ND filter, or even the Freewells that are $100. You get, I would say, 95% as good as those Polar Pros. But if that extra 5% in quality is coming from that just nice glass,
budget ones for me start with Freewell. Anything below Freewell, I'm just not. I used K&N for too long. I had way too many problems trying to color grade photos or video. Also, real quick, Desmond did say he shoots 4K on the A7R4. Well, no, his is 5. Sorry, with the PMD filters, and he hasn't seen any vignetting.
Yep.
Also, someone's here from Minneapolis.
Yep.
Big Soda.
Yeah. Minneapolis.
Who do we got? Who do we got in that picture? I can't see. Is that? I can't tell who that is. Someone from the Timberwolves. Paul, I got free tickets to the Timberwolves game again. I got 4 free. Every couple months they send out like the free scratch game, and it's always a winner. But you have to be like immediately and go get your seats. So
Desmond Wong, Rebel Hikes wants to know what glass you're using with your R4 that doesn't get any vignetting. Are you using do you have the 16 to 35 GM? I forget.
Did you see Mike has the 70 to 200, never uses it? I mean, Mike, you can feel free to like send it over to me or Paul. We'll use it.
I remember when he was like so hyped about getting that lens too. I think Camera Camp really got him excited about buying it, and then he never used it, huh? He really did enjoy using that 135 millimeter GM.
I want the 2.8 one they just put out. That would be kind of fun. And like I said, Paul, before, I told you before that I was looking at possibly trying to land like a camera, like a social media camera guy job for like the Timberwolves.
Oh yeah.
And you would pretty much need that 2.8 70 to 200 lens for that.
Oh, for sure.
Because that seems like that's what I've seen all the people who sit there and they just rotate. Like one guy will sit there for 15 minutes, then he switches because he's obviously going to go load the footage and send them off on Instagram.
I would say that lens, maybe the 100 to 400
I don't know
lens.
about that. I've only seen them rocking the 70-200 so far, but
I've also seen them shoot with the 400 prime and the 600 prime, but
Mike says a 2.8. He says, "Oh, wow, you should
those are
use that lens,
crazy
Mike."
expensive. My
Honestly, it's like that's really a good photo. I mean, it's a video as well, but like, there's not a lot of chances to use 200 millimeter focal range in video. like, that- like you, other than being such far distance away, like basketball games or something. But so I can see why he
I
probably
will
doesn't
say
use it a lot.
my buddy has the 600 millimeter prime lens. It's like $13,000, and I need to get with him and do a video on it. I got to shoot with it at Camera Camp a little bit. Mike did too, but it's yeah, it it's a fun lens. He said he has the Hoyas. Where there we go. He's getting the Hoyas. I haven't had much experience with those. Once again, they're kind of cheap, so I don't know if you're going to get via netting or not. There's a good chance you probably will. They're pretty cheap. Desmond says that he's using the 20 millimeter G and the 35 millimeter GM for both the R4 and the FX3. So he's used those two lenses without any problems with vignetting.
The Hoya ones are a little bit better. I mean, I've Gerald. If you guys want to look at NDs, like Gerald Undone has a video of all these budget NDs where
Yes.
you got like 6 of them and compared them all in every possible test you could ever think of. And he'll even showcase that some of the better ones that would cost more really aren't better. But his Peter McKinnon ones aren't the most expensive ones. He's using like $600 ND filters as well. And he really shows the green cast and the cheapness of the KNF and like how he likes him as like his absolute cheapest version. But Freewell is kind of one of those companies where they're in that middle price point, but they're probably up higher as far as quality. That's why I say it's like if you're gonna spend $100, like just get
Right.
the Freewell ones. If you're gonna spend 60, spend 100 and get the Freewell ones.
Right.
Like,
I say if you're going to go cheap, just spend the $100. You're going to end up spending them in some cases $50 more.
yep.
But I think the Freewells are well worth that $100 price
And
tag.
they all color cast. I mean, if you white balance with the thing on there, it'll be fine. And I showed that on our Freewell video. But some of those other ones, like the green cast that the KNF does, it does it in the flare. So if you get like sun flares, you can't remove that. You can't auto white balance that. Or white balance. That's something that's happening into the flare. And just like the McKinnon ones, they actually, if you look at the back side of the filter, that's where they put their coating, where they have that kind of gold reflection. So that kind of gives you goldish flares. That's why I like that one better, because it does give you warmer kind of sun flares than some of the other companies. But
You walked into a mall with a 70-200. What are you doing? Walking into a mall with a 70-200? I mean, that's
oh yeah, I
craziness.
can see why they're calling security. Like, what's this guy? Well, here's the thing: malls usually and generally across the nation aren't really legal to film in. It's something that's kind of not known too much. I know, like in the Mall of America, is one of those things they don't want you to film as well. But I was looking it up before on like rules about filming, and most private malls don't allow filming. I don't know why. Obviously, you can film with your cell phone because no one can stop you at that.
Right.
You walk in with a big rig, they're going to stop you. And I've tried doing a video before at the Mall of America
Oh,
with the
yeah,
camera
for sure.
setup, and it was just immediately shut down. Like, oh, can't film in here. Sorry. Because they think you're filming something that's commercial, public, whatever. Like, and that's what they get paid for permits on. So,
Well, I mean, it's been a good night tonight. We're a little bit over what we try to keep this and do about an hour.
Yep.
And I hope you guys enjoyed the content today. Do go check out Kyle's channel. He's got some more videos coming on the ZV-1 and the Crane M3. I've got this filter video. I got some more RGB lights because I'm an RGB light whore. And
and you just put out a video with us answering questions about stuff. So,
and I put up
go
a
check that out.
video that I got to fix the thumbnail for, like pronto, because I misspelled something like a fool. But yeah, do all the fun YouTube things, like and subscribe, and stay tuned for our creator camp And for whatever reason, why not? We'll just play the video one last time for you and let this be our outro for the night. Kyle, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. It's been
Yeah,
fun.
man. You can
Peace
play the
out,
other one if you
everyone,
want.
and we will see you guys next week.